Hey, shalom, 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 lakum. First and foremost, I want to say, Kahala Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, Bashem Rakakwadash. Right, that's all praises, honor, and glory to the Heavenly Father Yahweh, in the name of His only begotten Son Yahushai, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, right, in the name of the Rakakwadash, which would be the Holy Spirit. I want to give double honors to the elders and apostles that labored in this truth before me and taught me this truth, for shalom to the hopeful elect. I just want to go into a video about scriptures. I'm gonna get about 5 scriptures that prove that there will be slaves in the kingdom of heaven, right? And not only that, the children of Israel will be ruling over those slaves in the kingdom of heaven. So basically, the kingdom of heaven is a kingdom that's on earth, right? Like the Messiah said in the Lord's Prayer. We can get that real quick. Please, Matthew 6th chapter, right? It says, Matthew 6:6, it says, but I'll start at verse 5. It says, and when thou prayest, thou shalt not be as the hypocrites are, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and in the corners of the street, that they may be seen of men. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward, right? And this is the spirit of Christianity, man. You know, when we go out and preach on the street corners, we'll go out there and bring out the scriptures, break down the scriptures, teach our people, teach the heathen, you know what I mean, and expound upon the prophecies that are within the book, right? But a Christian's favorite thing to do is go out on the street corners and pray. They always have signs that say free prayer. Hey, let me pray for you. They always doing this, and it's a direct violation of what the Messiah said, right? That just shows you that, you know what I mean, Christianity is a religion of disorder, right? There's no order in it, right? So let's go here. Verse 6, it says, But thou, when thou prayest, enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. It says, let me jump down to verse 8. It says, verse 9. It says, after this manner, therefore pray ye, our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, right? The name Yahweh. The name is important. Right, verse 10 says, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth. Thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven, right? Then when you go here, Revelation, the 21st chapter, it says, Revelation 21:1 says, and I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. And I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from the Most High out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband, right? So it's showing you right here. Right here, I'll read verse 3 says, and I heard a great voice out of heaven say, behold, the tabernacle of the Most High is with men, and he dwell with me, and they shall be his people, and the Most High himself shall be with him and be their God, right? So this is demonstrating that the kingdom of heaven is going to be on earth, right? Micah 4. Right, Micah 4:1 says, but in the last days it shall come to pass that the mountain of the house of Yahweh shall be established in the top of the mountains, and it shall be exalted above the hills, and the people shall flow unto it, right? It says, and many nations shall come and say, come, let us go up to the mountain of Yahweh and to the house of the God of Jacob, and he will teach us his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For the law shall go forth out of Zion, and the word of Yahweh from Jerusalem, right? So this is showing you, this is New Jerusalem, right? New Jerusalem is a righteous city that's set up upon a hill, set up upon a mountain, right? And in the scriptures, certain parts, mountains represent governments. Mountains, big governments, hills, little governments, right? It says the mountain of the Lord shall be above all the governments, right? And it's showing you that this is on heaven. This is on earth because the nations are flowing to it, right? It says, verse 3, it says, and he shall judge among many people and rebuke strong nations afar off, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore, right? If you jump down to verse 5, it says, for all people will walk, everyone in the name of his God, and we will walk in the name of Yahweh our God forever and ever, right? So the Israelites are going to be enforcing the law from Jerusalem, right? And it shows you right here, there's still going to be idolatry going on. So that means other nations are going to be worshiping their God. But the children of Israel, right, Mount Zion, are going to worship the Lord, right? Let's see. You jump down to verse 8 says, "And thou, O tower of the flock, the stronghold of the daughter of Zion, unto thee shall it come, even the first dominion. The kingdom shall come to the daughter of Jerusalem." So the kingdom is going to be ruled by the Israelites, man, the daughter of Jerusalem, right? The other nations are still going to be doing their thing, right? So let's go to Revelation 2:26. Start verse 25. It says, "But that which ye have already hold fast till I come. And he that overcometh and keepeth my works unto the end, to him will I give power over the nations." Right? We just read the nations are going to be coming to give their wealth to the Israelites. Right? And we're going to get that in another place after this. Right? But it says, it says, read 26 again, it says, "And he that overcometh and keepeth my works unto the end, to him will I give power over the nations." Right? So the Israelites are going to be ruling over the other nations. Right? All the heathen that aren't of the 12 tribes of Israel. Right? Verse 27 says, "And he shall rule them with a rod of iron, as the vessel of a potter shall they be broken to shivers, even as I received of my father." So that's one scripture proving there's going to be slavery in the kingdom. Now, further proving this is when you get what the Messiah is quoting. So Revelation 2:26 is the Messiah speaking, but he's quoting that from somewhere, right? This is the book of Psalms, chapter 2. And I'll start at verse 6. It says, Yet have I set my king upon my holy hill of Zion. Right? Zion is a government. Right? The king that's going to be ruling is Yahushua HaMashiach, the Messiah. It says, "I will declare the decree. Yahweh has said unto me, Thou art my son. This day have I begotten thee." Right? This is talking about the only begotten son, Yahushua. Right? It says, "Ask of me, and I shall give thee the heathen for thine inheritance, and the uttermost part of the earth for thy possession." Right? So he's going to rule over the heathen. Right? It says you get the heathen for an inheritance. Let's get this word for inheritance. Right? Possession, property, inheritance, heritage, property, portion, share. Right? So he's going to be possessing the heathen. Right? To inherit. Remember this word inherit right here, man. Right? So we go back. So part of ruling over the nations is having them as an inheritance. That's as slaves. It says, verse 9 says, "And thou shalt break them with the rod of iron, and thou shalt dash them in pieces like a potter's vessel." Right? And we just read that. Right? He's going to rule the nations with a rod of iron. The nations are going to be inheritance. They're going to be getting ruled with a rod of iron, man. That sounds like slavery. Right? Verse 10 says, "Be wise now, therefore, O ye kings, be instructed, ye judges of the earth." Right? And the judges of the earth are those that were given the law, which is only the Israelites. So when we go here to Leviticus 25 and around verse 40, verse 39 says, "And if thy brother that dwelleth by thee be waxen poor, and he be sold unto thee, thou shalt not compel him to serve as a bondservant, but as a hired servant, and as a sojourner. He shall be with thee, and shall serve thee until the year of Jubilee." Right? So an Israelite can be called a sojourner, man. Just like an Israelite can be called a stranger. Right? You had to look at context. Right? Verse 41 says, "And then shall he," verse 41 says, "And then shall he depart from thee, both he and his children with him, and shall return unto his own family, and unto the possession of his fathers shall he return. For they are my servants, which I brought forth out of the land of Egypt. They shall not be sold as bondmen." Right? So it's showing you there's a difference right here. The Israelite is going to be a hired servant, but he can't serve as a bond servant. Right? Verse 43 says, "Thou shalt not rule over him with rigor, but shalt fear thy God." Right? Verse 44 says, "Both thy bondmen and thy bondmaids, which thou shalt have, shall be of the heathen that are round about you. Of them shall ye buy bondmen and bondmaids." Right? So an Israelite, you can't rule over him like a bondman. Right? But when you come here, these people can be ruled over. right, as slaves. Ibad, right, a slave, a manservant, right. So of the children of Israel, you can't have as a bondman, you can't have as a slave. They're a higher slave, and furthermore, at the year of Jubilee, they have to be released. So every 7 years, your hired servants, which are Israelites, have to be released. That's not the same for manservants, for the bondmaids and bond servants, right? And we just read that you can't rule over an Israelite with rigor. That means that if you can't rule over an Israelite with rigor, that means the Israelites aren't going to be ruling over other Israelites, and a heathen damn sure ain't going to be ruling over a heathen. A heathen damn sure ain't going to be ruling over an Israelite with rigor, right? So it's proven that there's going to be a hierarchy in the kingdom of heaven based off the laws themselves, right? It says, right, verse 44 again, it says, both thy bondmen and thy bondmaids which thou shalt have shall be of the heathen that are round about you. Of them shall ye buy bondmen and bondmaids. Moreover, of the children of the strangers that do sojourn among you, of them shall ye buy, and of their families that are with you, which they have, which they begot in your land, and they shall be your possession. Right? What's it say here? Verse 46, it says, and ye shall take them as an inheritance for your children after you, to inherit them for a possession. They shall be your bondmen forever. But over your brother and the children of Israel, you shall not rule one over another with rigor, right? So if we're ruling people, if someone's getting ruled in the kingdom of heaven with a rod of iron, that's slavery, man. Right? Let's go here. Right, so yeah, just to recap, man. Psalms 2 tells you that you will have the heathen for a possession, for an inheritance. That means for slaves. That's what that means. Right? Possession, property, possession by inheritance. Right? And then the Lord in Revelation 2 said, hey, you know what I mean? Endure to the end, and you'll get the same thing that was promised to me. What? That's slaves in the kingdom, right? So let's go here to Isaiah 14 and verse 1. It says, for Yahweh will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel and set them in their own land, and the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob, right? So, right, so Isaiah 14:1 is saying that the Lord's going to have mercy on the house of Israel, right? And then the strangers, the Israelite foreigners, are going to cleave to the house of Israel, right? The house of Jacob. Verse 2, it says, and the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of land of Yahweh for servants and for handmaids. And they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors, right? The scriptures we just read, hey, you're going to rule over the nations, right? What nations are we ruling over? All the nations, right? Because you go to Jeremiah, I believe it's Jeremiah 30 and 16, right? It says, therefore all that devoured thee shall be devoured, and all thine adversaries, every one of them, shall go into captivity, and they that spoil thee shall be a spoil, and all that prey upon thee will I give for a prey, right? So that's another slavery verse, right? We're going to rule over our captives. We're going to take them captives, who captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors, right? And verse 3 says, and it shall come to pass in the day that Yahweh shall give thee rest from thy sorrow and from thy fear and from thy hard bondage wherein thou was made to serve, that thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon, and say, how has the oppressor seized, the golden city seized, right? And this is talking about mystery Babylon, right? So that's another one. Let's go to Jeremiah 30 and 16 and look up the word for captive. All right, we'll take them into captivity. All right, so the word for captivity is Shabaya, captivity, captives, captives. Right. It says exile, by extension, booty, right? Prisoners, taken away, that was taken, right? And booty is just mean like the pirates get treasure, right? That's their money, right? And that's what the nations are going to be. Because when you get Isaiah 60 and 60 and 10, it says, and the sons of strangers shall build up thy walls, and their kings shall minister unto thee. For in my wrath I have smote thee, but in my favor have I mercy on thee. Therefore thy gates shall be open continually, they shall not be shut day or night, that men may bring unto thee the forces of the Gentiles, and that their kings might be brought. For the nation and kingdom that will not serve thee shall perish. Yea, those nations shall be utterly wasted. Right. So this is the Lord is telling us right here that the children of Israel are going to be ruling over these people. They're going to be taking their riches. Right. And the nations that refuse to serve the Israelites, they're going to be destroyed. Right. We're going to rule over the nations. Right. And I forgot to get this. Let's get Luke 21 and 24. Right. Just to prove that all nations had a part in our slavery, man. Right. This is the book of St. Luke, chapter 21, 24. This is talking about 70 AD, the destroying of the temple and the exile of the Israelites. Right. It says, and they shall fall by the edge of the sword and shall be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. Right. Let's get this. Revelation 13 and 9. It says, if any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. So we just read the Israelites were led away captive into all nations. He that leadeth into captivity must go into captivity. So everybody that led the saints, which are the Israelites, into captivity, got to go into slavery, man. Right? And let's just prove the Israelites were scattered. James 1 and 1. It says, James, the servant of the Most High, and of the Lord Yahushua HaMashiach, to the 12 tribes that are scattered abroad, greeting. Right, so we know Romans was written to the saints, Corinthians was written to the saints, Thessalonians, all the letters of the apostles were written unto the saints, which are the Israelites. And then further proving it, James, he lets you know this is to the 12 tribes. Hebrews lets you know it's to the 12 tribes. Right, so everything in this Bible is written to the Israelites. So let's go here and get the word for scattered. The word is diaspora, a scattering, a dispersion of Israelites dispersed among foreign nations. So that when it's talking about Gentiles in the New Testament, it's talking about Israelites that lost their heritage, man. Or Hellen, really, because the word is either Hellenistes or Hellen for the most part. And that's talking about a Hellenized Jew, one that lost the customs. Like many of the Israelites in America would be Gentiles until they come into the truth and knowledge who they are and come back to their customs, right? Because certain laws, like if you didn't get circumcised on the 8th day, you were cut off from being a people. Now, if our people stop following that tradition, right, that lets you know right there, if they're not keeping that law, that means that baby is being raised from birth to be a heathen. Because if they weren't, they would have got circumcised on the 8th day. That represents them being raised in the law, you know what I mean, to a certain degree. Right, so let's get another scripture. I think that's about 5, but let's get this Isaiah 61 and 61, and I start at verse 1. It says, the spirit of the Lord Yahweh is upon me, because Yahweh have anointed me to preach good tidings unto the meek. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and the opening of the prison to them that are bound. Right? And where else do we see this at? This is in the book of, I believe, Luke 4 and 17. This is the Messiah. The Messiah quotes this. Right? This is the book of St. Luke, chapter 4 and 17. It says, and there was delivered unto him the book of the prophet Isaiah. Isaiah. And he had opened the book, and he found a place where it was written, the spirit of Yahweh is upon me, because he hath anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He hath sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to preach deliverance to the captives, and the recovering of sight to the blind, to set at liberty them that are bruised, to preach the acceptable year of the Lord. Right? And this is a stumbling block, because people talk about the gospel, but they don't read the chapter where the gospel is found, where the Messiah quotes the gospel. Right? Because watch this. Isaiah 61:2 says to proclaim the acceptable year of Yahweh, right? That's what it says here. Verse 19, St. Luke 4:19, to preach the acceptable year of Yahweh. Now, when you come back to Isaiah 61 and verse 2, watch what else it says. To proclaim the acceptable year of Yahweh and the day of vengeance of our God. So the Lord is about to take vengeance on Judgment Day. But who is he taking vengeance on? Because we already read in Revelation 13, he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. So the Israelites are patiently waiting for that revenge. The day of vengeance is coming from the Lord, right? Verse 3 says to appoint unto them that mourn in Zion. This is Israel, the Israelites. It says to give unto them beauty for ashes and oil for joy, oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness, that they might be called trees of righteousness, the planting of Yahweh, that he might be glorified. And they shall build the old waste, they shall raise up the former desolations, and shall repair the waste cities and desolations of many generations. And strangers shall stand and feed your flocks, and the sons of the alien shall be be your plowmen and your vine dressers, right? So we just read in Isaiah 60 that the sons of the heathen shall build up thy walls, right? The sons of the heathen are going to build up your walls. It says right here, the strangers shall, it says, like, we're going to rebuild the desolate cities. But it says, where was that? You're going to rebuild the desolate cities. It says, the sons of the strangers shall stand and feed your flocks, and the sons of the aliens shall be the plowmen and your vine dressers, right? So the cities are getting built back up, but it's the heathen that are doing that, right? We already read in Isaiah 14 that we're going to take them for bondmen and bond servants, right? So they're going to be feeding our flocks. They're going to be building our cities. That means they're going to be slaves. We're already getting the heathen for an inheritance, right? Verse 6 says, but ye shall be named the priests of Yahweh. Men shall call ye the ministers of our God. Ye shall eat the riches of the Gentiles, and in their glory ye shall boast yourselves, right? So, hey, the riches of these nations are going to be given to the Israelites, man. Actually, let's go here. Let's get this in Joel 3 and close it out. Joel 3 in verse 4 says, Yea, what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, and all the coast of Palestine? Will you render me a recompense? And if ye recompense me swiftly and speedily, will I return your recompense upon your own head. So Tyre and Zidon, those are two Hamitic nations, right? These are Canaanite nations, basically, right? Verse 5 says, because ye have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried into your temples my goodly pleasant things, the children of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians, that ye might remove them far from their border, right? So these Hamite nations, these so-called Africans, sold the children of Judah and Jerusalem unto the Grecians, so-called white men, right? So it's telling you right here, the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians are the Israelites, because not only did the Negroes get sold to the Grecians, right? But how did the Dominicans get to the island of, of Hispaniola, right? They came there with the Haitians. We were all in the same boat, right? So the northern and southern kingdom, so-called black people, right? So-called Hispanic people were sold unto the Grecians, right? The British, the Spanish, right? The French. That was us, right? It says, verse 7, it says, behold, I will raise them out of the place whither ye have sold them, and will return your recompense upon your own head. And I will sell your sons and daughters into the hand of the children of Judah, and they shall sell them to the Sabians, to a people far off, for Yahweh has spoken it, right? So this is talking about slavery. This is talking about the Israelites running a slave trade of the heathen, man, because the heathen are going to be an inheritance, right? That's what the scriptures say, man. So there's going to be slaves in the kingdom of heaven. We just wrote it. We gave you the whole rundown, man. This is 5 scriptures proving slaves in the kingdom of heaven, man. And with that, I want to say, Call Allah Yahweh, Bashem Yahweh Shai, and Kwam Yasharallah.